All right, good morning. Now, we all know when people tell you, say, an autobiography or write a religious book, they're not going to tell you the mundane things. Now, even though Moses tells you that Israel has to gather the manna, for example, every day to be fed it and eat it, does that mean, though, that every day was exactly the same? Probably within reason. But usually when you write a story, and say it's an autobiography, you write out what's most important too, right? Not the everyday activity. Plus, you don't know if some of it is literal or sarcastic too, right? Sometimes a prophet will use metaphors as well. Or mean something literal you don't understand yet. Like when Isaiah said, "You shall suck the breast of kings," in the Hebrew. Well, there's one way to do that if the king is a hermaphrodite. If it's referring to the queen, unlike most words, that is an actual word that ends correctly in the Hebrew. Queens is melakos. Kings is melakim. But to know that, you got to study into the Hebrew language itself. Which is why I'm suggesting the divine name, like the name Sarah, might be feminine. Right? Yahuwah. Understand, Jews? Why Yahuwah from Eliyahu, right? Which is the masculine. So if it ends with an H, and Sarah does too, or Sarah as we say it in America, then what? So does the divine name end in an H, so it's masculine and feminine. So is some of the idols in Buddhism. Half of the idol is feminine and half of it is masculine. It has a boob on one side, which I have to really push mine up to even look like one. And then a male's kind of a boob on one side, and then a male chest on the other. But again, now let's see my weight this morning.
Body weight is 321.6 pounds.
All right, 321.6 pounds.
321.6 pounds.
Now, do I have a belly right here? It's usually called a love handle or a little bit of a fanny pack, right? But the rest of it, right, is mainly muscle. Now, one of them weighs more than the other. Guess which? Muscle weighs more than fat. Now, I probably have maybe 30 pounds of fat, which means the rest of the 290 is muscle. If I'm 321. Let's be honest. But if you have a problem with that, it has nothing to do with my weight. It has to do with something in your sick head, which I can't do nothing about. Right. Alright, so as you can see, I'm up this morning, put my ID in my wallet. Another 16 hours. Now that I got a vehicle, I can now refocus on my schooling. Right? I've been having to work through that. Right? And some of my assignments are about a week late. But there's a reason for that. Right. I'm having to get around differently to do things, right? But now that I got the car again, we're back to normal. We're back to normal. Alright, we're going to see us on TV this morning. Well, like I said, in a few months, I'll just clean all this up real quick. And that's kind of a job or a chore, right? I'll work into my schedule, right? So this is today, talking about Harry and Meghan.
Everyone should be afforded the opportunity to receive education that they want, but more importantly, the education that they have the right to receive. The Duke and Duchess of
They fire their London staff for some reason, according to today.
Last month, Harry addressed.
But other people are predicting it won't last. So, Good Morning America, they're talking about a new baby hippo born in San Diego Zoo.
All right, Jennifer, thank you so much. Make sure you keep us updated on the baby. And as people probably know, we could call it a hippo baby because she doesn't have a name yet. But if you're watching at home, you can help name her. All you have to do is share your name suggestion on social media using the hashtag GMA San Diego Hippo. Fun, right? Yeah, like that. See what the name's gonna be.
GMA coverage story right now. The popular hair care brand Diva Curl is under fire this morning. Several people claiming the company's products have damaged their hair.
A missing South Carolina girl is found dead. I'm so sorry to hear that. Some people don't respect children like they're supposed to. I'm not one of them, right? But because, I'm making up stories about it, you want to take them literally when that's all a mentally ill person can do is try to understand what you're talking about when they don't have a memory of it. Whole point there too, right?
Curly hair types and textures. But this morning, the popular hair care brand is facing major backlash. A group of consumers filing a proposed class action lawsuit in New York Wednesday against the manufacturer Diva Con.
Cop was found not guilty of a 2017 slaying of a woman, right? Don't know why. But see, if the government can claim sovereign immunity, I might not can go through with my suits anyway, but that's the point to attempt to, right? I don't know if they will or won't, right? I see us on CBS. It's 8:21. This has to do with active shooter drills. Too real.
When I was growing up, I believed in a better future.
All right, that's a commercial for All Rise, which is an okay court drama. But one thing they're not dealing with is sovereign immunity, and see, that's what I mean about lying about something that's also on the books, but showing you what they want to show you. And when people do that, that's called lying about it. That's called cherry picking what they show you or reveal to you. Now, like I told you about the stoning of the man for sticks, right? Who picked up the sticks. You don't know that really happened, but it is an example for a reason. Are you also going to stone someone who does pick up sticks on the Sabbath day? Maybe that's a rhetorical question. Now, the disciples, according to what Matthew wrote about them picking the corn on the Sabbath day, probably really picked the corn on the Sabbath day, but they were also going to eat it the same day, right? Why is that different than picking up a few sticks anyway, right? And then being stoned for that? One shows mercy, and one shows the harshness of the law. No. And Jesus is showing you mercy and not sacrifice. Because in order to break the law, you have to do something against the law. Now, yes, Adam and Eve were told there was a certain tree in the garden they should not eat of. That in the day they ate thereof, they would surely die. But the commandment between God, Adam, and Eve got a little confused when Eve was confronted by the serpent after she was taken out of the man. Yet to be taken out of the man, she was also in the man. What does that mean? Hermaphrodite again. Right. You're not a witness to any of this either, nor am I, but you're guessing wrong sometimes and will admit you might be wrong. Right. And what you see as a man now might not have been what God sees as a man then. Right? And God is a spirit. Right? But from one came two, right? You might could do that with a hermaphrodite, but the only way to do it with the male is to remove the X chromosome and double it in the female. Both are possible, like I said. I don't know. I wasn't there either, right? But I'm giving you two ways to see it, not one either. Because I wasn't there. You're not there either, but you act like you know better than me 4,000 to 2,000 years ago. And there's 10,000 years of tribulations or 10 days, right? We could have another 3,500 to 4,000 years before it's all over. You just don't know, do you? You just don't know, do you? So when did the tribulation begin? When we sinned with Satan. No. Till now, which is 6,000 years according to the Jewish calendar. Really a little less, about 57 something, 5,700 something. Almost towards 58. Right? But it's over half a century difference and under a full. Now, they're claiming that's when the fall occurred, is 6,000 years ago anyway. And so it is more based on their understanding of it, right? I admit that. But they could be wrong too. It could be longer than that. The scientists could be a little right too, right? Because it could be 50 to 250,000 years, which is really 6 times 8, right? That does it equal 48? No, right? Well, that's because the Assyrians said we lived up to 8,000 years. Moses shortened it to 1,000 years for some reason. I know. Well, 48,000 years, I know, would then be multiplied times 5 to equal around 250 years as well. I know. Which there again, there's 5 books of Moses. So who knows when it happened or started or right. You just don't know. You just don't know. And a lot of it is guessing. And what the Christians point out is the earth was at one time perfect before the fall as well. There was nothing wrong with it. Once we fell, Satan started attacking it easier by getting us to condemn with him versus forgive with Jesus. Kind of get the point? And taught you condemnation instead of forgiveness, right? Which is all Jesus can teach you and God can teach you. You have to do the right things. That is true, right? I don't disagree with that, even when he said they just simply disobey God, when not understanding what I'm saying about the Gnostic Gospels, saying it included sex with Adam, with Satan's physical form, right? But they don't want to hear that because it's too much for them to grasp that by doing so, they broke all 10 commandments in one shot by having sex with Satan. They murdered each other. They killed each other. They took the name of the Lord in vain. They had another God before God, right? They did not honor the Sabbath day to keep it holy, which they sinned on the 7th day or the 7,000th year or the 8,000th year. Who does, right? And if you do it plus 1, 8 plus 1,000, you get what? 9. You just don't know. You just don't know everything. Though John mentions 10 days, which is 10,000 years. So who knows? Who knows? Right? And that would be perfectly 2.5 times 10, right? And again, yet when Jesus ascended, it was 40 days, and Passover is the 50th day. Who was being tribulated then? The church itself. And who was doing the tribulation? Was Peter trying to separate those who would follow him from those who would follow the true message Jesus gave them from the Old and New Testament, right? They might be two different doctrines as well. Now, I ain't saying Peter didn't bring it out a little bit, or Paul more specifically, right? And they didn't try to deal with it. Now, Jesus asked the word question, though. How is the Messiah David's son if he called him Lord? Right? What does that mean? And things like that. People don't understand what he's saying half the time. So they ignore it. They don't think it important. That's easier for us to do, which means we're not dealing with it and we're lying about it if we say something amiss. I know. Right? All right. Have a good day.